everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome for the newcomers to Quilt Roadies. We are all about just hanging out together. I just show what I'm in the process of trying to finish. My life has been filled with UFOs, and I keep getting sucked down the rabbit hole on new stuff, and so today is just going to be a combination of it all. I have to say thank you very much for those of you who left comments. It really makes me, it reinforces for me that we are more alike than different, and no matter what our soapbox is, there still is more in common than not. And I just appreciate all the comments. We are all struggling with all kinds of excuse me, all kinds of difficulties in our lives, and we just have to keep on quilting, keep on quilting, keep on quilting. Isn't that the truth? So welcome. Today is a work day in the Bee Hive, and I already this morning have put on a binding, attached a binding to the baby quilt. So now I'm making my pile for, I felt like the last video, everyone thought like I was leaving on retreat the next day, or some of you did. That's not the case. My quilt retreat is still about 2 weeks off from this video. But it takes me a while to prep because I really, especially this particular quilt retreat, because we haven't been able to retreat together in such a long time, and I want to use my time the most efficiently. And so I've been making my list, checking it twice, and then remaking it. Changing my mind. But so far in my little retreat pile, I have the Christmas table runner with the binding that needs tacking down, and the baby quilt that needs tacking down. So far that is what I have in my pile. I am going to be taking mostly handwork. In fact, that's what I'm going to take. I don't, I kind of really, because this has been so long since I've really been able to retreat with my quilt group, I just want to really be present. And so I want projects that are not going to require too much concentration, as far as I don't want to cut out a quilt, I don't want to piece something wrong. I really want to listen to the conversation and totally be present. I know in quilt retreats in the past I've taken tons of projects to piece, and it requires a certain dedication to looking down at your sewing machine, and I don't know. Who knows? 2 weeks from now I could be totally changing my mind. So let me digress a little bit. Welcome to Quilt Roadies. This is a channel about the crazy quilting life of one quilter. And I represent quilters everywhere. I love all aspects of quilting. I probably am 80% handwork. I quilt some of my own quilts, some I send out. I've been quilting since 1993 was when I took my very first quilting class. And I've never looked back. Because not only is the process of quilting so calming and grounding for me, I've met so many fabulous people. And I really truly feel like I live a Forrest Gump kind of life. My quilting and my choices in life have just taken me so many different directions to meet so many different people. And I am a die-hard people watcher. I want to listen to everybody and figure out how the world ticks. And that is my very favorite thing. I would love to be invisible. I would love to have that cloak that Harry Potter has where he can make himself invisible and be in a room and just listen to all the conversations. Because let me tell you, the world is filled with fascinating people. Filled with fascinating people. And the quilting world is the best. It is the best. So today, what I'm doing, I'm going to turn my phone off because I just know as soon as I really have to concentrate, it'll start ringing. So this is the side of my Bee Hive, which is what my quilt room is called, the Bee Hive. That is my cutting table. Now, my cutting table, back in the day, G, my husband, was a cartographer, and this was his drafting table, and so it actually lifted at an angle. But years ago, I asked him when it was when he had like moved up the food chain where he worked, and was no longer actually drawing maps. I asked him if I could have this as a cutting table because it's the perfect height. And it has a metal base, so I have lots of magnetic things down there. And it has a shelf that I have drawers with my wool in it. And then he refinished the wood top, and I put my cutting mat on it, and then it has all my gewgaws on it, which I just love. And so someone asked me about some of the things behind me. So this particular piece is a punch needle. I did not do it. I bought it off of a sample sale from Primitive Gatherings. The Singer sewing machine is a reverse drawing done by my older son. He is an artist. And then I have a postcard that is by Scott Hansen, Blue Nichols Studio, and a postcard frame that is by Tony Belinda Phillips, which is a happy house. So that's what's behind me. That's what's behind me. And the ceiling angles here. So it's an interesting house. There's a lot of angles to it. But I just love this room. And then I have, you know, my bookshelves that are filled with all manner of stuff. We just got back from a couple of days mooch docking, which means that you camp in someone's driveway, visiting my oldest son, his wife, her nieces and nephew, my grandson, and her brother-in-law, and her mother, who flew from Canada. She had not seen her grandchildren in 18 months. 18 months. Because coming across the border has been an issue. As it was, she had to take a COVID test, and she had to take 3 flights, because the only way to come into the United States from Canada right now is to fly. And so it took her 3 flights to get to us in Oregon. And it was so fun to see her. I hadn't seen her in a couple years. But we had some really good family time. G and our older son hiked up a butte, and I got to spend time with all the kids, plus my oldest grandson, who is a sweetheart, and it was just a great time. It was just a really, really wonderful, soul-filling time. And it was in the woods. They have a house in the woods. And so, you know, a vacation home the family owns. And so we just parked Penny, our van, in the driveway and really enjoyed ourselves. All the little kids just loved the van. I mean, oh my gosh, they were like, it has a TV. Oh my gosh, it has a toilet, you know. Yeah, they were all ready to just hop on and hit the road with us. So while I was coming home, we drove over the mountain a different way than we came, and it looked like there must be another fire somewhere in the general area because the smoke was really thick at the top of the mountain. And we made a stop at Crafter's Warehouse, which is in Salem. And I walked in because you know, you can't not go to Crafter's Warehouse when you're driving right by it. And I picked up a couple of things. I picked up 2 packages of these wooden red beads. And the reason I picked them up, there's a reason, hold on, is that Dana, who was in my Zoom class this summer, showed a crocheted popcorn garland. Now, you might ask, oh, I didn't know you crocheted. I don't crochet. But I think I might be able to crochet popcorn. Who knows? And so she had put little beads in between the popcorn, kind of like cranberries. And so when I saw these wooden beads that were already painted red, I said, oh, I'm just going to get those to try to visualize making popcorn garland. Now, I probably showed you this already, but I'm going to show it again. Dana had sent me one of the things she showed that she was working on in the Zoom class was buttermilk basin row through the years, and this was Halloween campers in a row. Absolutely adorable, absolutely adorable. And so she sent this to me, and I am like all about it. So I have been enabled not only for the Halloween campers, but the crochet garland. Thank you, Dana. And while I was walking around, I found this half-yard cuts, and I had to get them. I mean, I still am totally enamored of Hexies, just not keeping up on it very well. But I thought this was perfect Hexie fabric. Look at those monkeys, stuffed sock monkeys. So I bought a half-yard of those. And then I bought a wooden piece, which if you're a cross-stitcher, you will see on Stitch Roadies, because I bought it as a finishing piece for my latest cross-stitch finish. And really happy about that. I had to paint it. Yeah, I had to paint it. I did receive a package from So Yeah, and I love going on their live, although I wasn't very successful last time. I'm not quite sure what was going on. I was on the live feed. I refreshed twice, but I couldn't, nothing I wanted could go, was I fast enough on the trigger. But I love getting backings from them because I don't have a lot of big pieces for backings. I could piece backings by using up my stash, but don't want to do that. don't want to do that. So I have been buying 5-yard cuts. You know, 5-yard cuts for $30 is pretty darn good. And so I bought, I think I might have showed you this already. Yeah, I did. So I'm going to be thinking about what those 5-yard cuts are going to be used for. My t-shirt today is Hard Rock Cafe Paris. My mother and my youngest son and I traveled with backpacks across Europe on the Eurail. And one of the places we went to was the Hard Rock Cafe in Paris for my youngest son's 16th birthday. Yeah, he's in his 30s now. So he celebrated his 16th birthday at the Hard Rock Cafe in Paris, and because of their age things, he had his first beer in Europe. Yeah, so it was a very fun, adventuresome time. We never had an itinerary. If you can imagine, if you can imagine, my mom was a senior citizen. There was myself and my 16-year-old son and a train schedule. So when we landed in the European continent, we had no place to stay and no agenda. And so we went to the train station. But you know, we're kind of light on our feet. We're nomadic travelers, and so when we landed, we went to the train station. We had our Eurail passes and a book, and we decided, okay, every train station in Europe had a kiosk or a place where you could look at for hotels or places to stay. And so we found a place to stay, and we stayed in Paris a couple of days, and then we went back to the train station and looked at the schedule, and at that point decided where we wanted to go next. And then we got on that train and got to the next destination. I'm not sure you could do that now, but it was an amazing way to travel where you didn't have all the rules and restrictions as far as reservations. We got to be here by this day because we have a reservation for here. We had none of that. It was like every time we decided to pick up and move, that's when we decided which train to take and which country to go to. And it was before cell phones, devices, social media. They had back then internet cafes. And so wherever we traveled, we stopped at, I would find a internet cafe, and you know, he must have been, maybe it was his 18th birthday. I think it might have been his 18th birthday, not his 16th birthday. I know it was his birthday because he was going to the internet cafe to type an email to his girlfriend in the States. And so whatever city we landed in, we would look for an internet cafe, and then he would go and stay connected to his friends. It was amazing. It was just an amazing, you know, it would be hard to do that kind of trip now. And so every day I wake up being grateful that we traveled as much as we did, and that we were not as restricted. You know, we had the freedom on a daily basis to choose, where do you want to go? What do you want to see? And now we have to plan. You have to plan, and especially internationally, you got to plan so many days ahead that you got to get your COVID test before you can get on the plane. Oh, yeah. I told G the other day, I'm so happy we traveled as much as we did, because I really don't have the desire now. It's too much work. It was so simple. A backpack, a book, and we brought books, and then every time we finished a book, we just left it. Either left it in the train for some other passenger, or left it, left it in a public place for someone else to pick up, and then we would look for another book. Because you didn't have an iPad. You didn't have that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, so I have this whole collection. Here I'm babbling. I have this whole collection of t-shirts that really I need to make myself a t-shirt quilt, because it's such a memory. All the t-shirts I have are such a memory. So I'm going to be cutting out Harvest Table, which is by Kathy Schmitz, and my plan today is to sew the top together and then layer it and hopefully quilt it and attach a binding before I go to retreat so that I can tack the binding down at retreat. But if you remember, it's this particular, and here's my embroidery blocks that I did, a little black, just black embroidery floss, and I used transferees to do this. And someone asked me, let me get it out, I'm going to get it out, I know exactly where it is. Someone asked me about transferees, and it is, oh look it, now I can't find it. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, here it is. Transferees is MJP Designs is where I got it. It sometimes has an orange cover sheet or a green cover sheet. And you can stop the video right now and read the stuff if you can see it. But it comes in sheets, and you just put it in your printer. Where's that word? Do you do that? Where's that word? I gotta get that word. Yeah, you put it in your printer, and you print off your motifs. You know, and the motifs were on this, she had them on a paper. You print that off, and then you stick it to your fabric and embroider. It's like lickety-split, but there is that step of getting it wet and, you know, then rubbing it off. Oh, some of the comments were just so funny. It's my nighttime reading, or my early morning reading. I just love to laugh and read the comments and stuff. So let's see, the Tan Stars says, cut one strip the width of the fabric 2 inches wide. Oh, 2 inches. See, I almost did 2.5 automatically. So 2 inches wide. And this is for the pinwheels. And then they want me to cut that into 10 2-inch squares. The challenge is not to make a mistake, which all you quilters out there know that that's like an inevitable. But when you wait so long to put something together, when you've bought a kit 10 years ago, you can't get that fabric again. So you cannot make a mistake cutting, or else you have to adjust, because you're not going to find that same fabric to replace the miscut. So I'm being very, very careful with my cutting, because this was a kit. I love the fabric, and it's her line of fabric, Kathy Schmidt's. So yeah, unless you can find it on the secondary market. So I'm going to be very careful cutting this out. I literally had to go downstairs and get a drink and a snack, which was a fresh peach, and oh, was it delicious, because it has been a really long time since I've had to do this complicated of a cutting, and using my brain to do all of this cutting and making sure that I do not make a mistake, because this is a very old kit, and I don't want, I don't want to make a mistake with the fabric, because I cannot get the fabric again. So I like, oh, your brain needs some nourishment. It's literally. And so the way I've been doing it is, as I cut each piece, I've check marked next to it that I cut it. And so now I have everything cut, and now we're ready for assembling. Yes, so let's see. It's and her cutting instructions include both the table runner and the little pot holders. Did you see my brain kind of went wah wah wah? Yeah, and so I probably didn't need to cut quite as much, but then I'll have it already pre-cut for when I do the other two stitch blocks. So cutting the hand embroidered crackle wheat, cut 4 blocks. These will be cut down to 7.5 by 7.5. So let's see. Oh, so they need to be cut down, which is scary. That's so scary when you have to cut something down and you don't want to make sure. So let's see, it says here, crackle wheat, 4 equal blocks. They will be cut down to 7.5 by 7.5 after the embroidery is finished. So we want to center this. Yeah, so 7.5, 7.5 is the center should be. The center of this should be 3 3/4. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of scary, isn't it? So if I do 3 3/4 as the center, three and 3/4, 7.5. Yeah, okay. Okay. So then I can just go 7.5. After you've spent all that time embroidering, you don't want to make a mistake. So. Did you hear that? It was the gears in my brain going clunk clunk, clunk clunk, clunk clunk. they're saying, "Don't do it, Bandy." Okay. And again, I read again. 7.5. 7.5. Okay, 7.5. It has to be cut down to 7.5. Oh, yes. Okay, trimmed up. Yeah, looks pretty centered. Oh, shoot. Yeah. It's pretty darn... Quilting should be an Olympic event, don't you think? It should be like, I mean, as much time and effort as it goes into it. Can you imagine if it was, yeah. You got the gold medal in quilting! Okay. So I've got them ready to start piecing. So come on over and we'll do a little bit of piecing. Wish me luck. Gonna turn my phone off because I'm gonna get distracted by it. All that dinging, you know, that goes on. So I'm now starting to sew my pieces together. It's been a long time. It has been a long time since I have actually cut out a quilt and started piecing, you know, all the pieces together, because I have so many, well, as I've said before, a lot of my stuff is handwork, and so it takes a long time to get it to the quilt put together block phase. And then I have so many that need to be quilted, so I have not actually chain pieced anything in quite a while. I have to say it's kind of fun, and it is very satisfying to actually empty out a project box of a project, or rather this was in a bag, a project bag. I am making half square triangles. It's a beautiful day here, although, you know, I can kind of see, because I'm high, the angle of our house, and I'm on the second floor, so I can and we're at the top of a knob. I can kind of see way off in the distance that this morning there was a layer of smoke way out there. Not here, we're totally blue sky here, but there's definitely fires still out there. I'm really concerned about hurricane, is it Ida? Oh. I tell you, Mother Nature's not very happy with us. These are going to be little sweet pinwheels. My sewing machine is a Janome or New Home sewing machine, and it's the 8200 Memory Craft QC. And it is a great great machine. I have not had a bit of problem with it. So you might be wondering, my hair's driving me crazy. I should have put it in a ponytail. Anyway, you might be wondering what this little block is. And I purchased this at Old World Quilt Shop when they were a brick and mortar store. So you might go on their website and see, or email them and see if they still carry these, because one of the gals in the shop's husband used to make those, and they are awesome because all you do when you're chain piecing is you go like that. See? You just no getting your scissors out. It's just a cute, you know, we like our cute tools, don't we? And it's handmade. I know that this part of it is a clover piece from Japan, but he made this, oh, it says the Old World Quilt Shop on the bottom, this block of wood. But my intention someday is to do some Sue Spargo stitching circles and attach them on all four sides just to decorate our, you know how we like to decorate everything. So now I'm just doing the other side of my half square triangles. Then I discovered this morning that our quilt retreat is longer than I had thought. I don't know. My calendar is totally dysfunctional. I am, trying to get a handle on it, and it is out of control. And so I thought the retreat was only 2.5 days, and it's actually more than that. So now I have to figure out, first, can I even go? Because it's longer than I thought of, so I have to look at my schedule. I have to talk to G. And then I have to revamp my project list. I still don't think I'll take a sewing machine. I still think I'll do handwork. That is so satisfying. Okay, now I don't think I'm going to bother rotary cutting these apart. I'll just cut them apart. Okay. Read the, what is it, what is that saying? You check it twice and you cut once, or that's the way I feel about it all right now. Stay tuned. Took a little break. Quilting is so exhausting. Well, I sewed my half square triangles together, and now I'm just trimming off the dog ears before I sew them together. And I thought I would share with you what I do with the dog ears. You know, the dog ears are these little, on half square triangles that stick out, the sticky out part, and you end up with all these little things. Well, years ago, a quilter, whether she was pulling my quilting leg or not, and back then I believed everything I was told when it came to quilting. Like, oh, it's a piece of cake. It's a piece of cake. It's just cutting up fabric and putting it back together. Yeah, no. Well, she told me that I should save all the dog ears in a jar. So I got this bottle, and there's a gazillion of them in there from all the quilts I've made. And she says it's called goose jelly. course, I've never heard of that since she told me, but, you know, who am I to question, you know? Well, so it's been a long time since I added some dog ears to the goose jelly jar. But why would you do that? Well, it's kind of fun to see all the little colorful little pieces of fabric that and they're all shaped the same. They're all in little triangles. And you can kind of think about all the quilts you've made. So now I'm putting in the latest dog ears into my goose jelly jar. It's kind of like in cross stitch they have an Ort container. Well, this is the quilting version of that. Now I have to sew these together, and it says oh my gosh, this is just a lot of work. So it says I have to trim them to 1.5 inches. Well, they're 1.5 inches. Well, they're kinda, I mean, using 20 of the black stars and 20 of the tan black star fabric and 20 of the tan garden squares, so half stretch time. This will be a total of 40. After pressing them open, trim them to 1.5. Wow. I tell you, quilting is exhausting. It's been a long time since I've read this detailed of instructions and actually pieced this tiny. I used to do miniature quilts, so, you know, it shouldn't be a big deal to me, but oh my gosh. It's going to be awesome, though. It's going to be awesome. I need a cutting mat. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. So what I told you earlier about not being very careful when you're cutting up an old kit because you can't get that fabric again. Well, I should have looked, this is what I can tell you, is always look at the photograph, and look at the fabric prints that they've used in the photograph. I was looking at the instructions, and these instructions are challenging for me because they're telling you the cutting and sewing instructions for 2 different projects. They're telling you how to cut up the fabric for this table runner, which is what I want to make, and also the cutting instructions for the pot holders. For me, I would need them separate. For my friend Dale, she could have dissected this without any problems. So that's the thing about quilt patterns, is you have to be very careful when it's working against your natural inclination. So now I have to adjust the pattern, and I do believe, because I am not making the pot holders, that I will have enough fabric to adjust what I need. But I tell you, obviously I need to start flexing more of my piecing skills and stop just doing handwork, but actually do a lot more piecing, because I now have to you know, kind of get that piecing brain back in gear. So will I be able to pull this off, or won't I? It may be in the next video. Thank you so much for hanging with me. I've had a lovely time. I really have. And I could use all this stitchy support, all the quilty support that I can pull this off. And we shall see in the next video if I can do it. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're new to the channel, I hope I didn't scare you away. Take care.